The Mapmaker of Lisbon, 1575. The morning light broke over the tiled rooftops of Lisbon, gilding the Tagus River in molten gold. Sea mist clung to the harbor as if reluctant to let the ships go. Down by the waterfront, sailors shouted, ropes groaned, and gulls circled hungrily. But farther up the hill, tucked within the quieter streets of the Alfama district, a different rhythm played out. Within a narrow house, whose stone walls had weathered over a century of salt air and sun, lived Tomás, a man of ink-stained fingers, furrowed brow, and quiet thoughts. He was a cartographer, though the world called him a map-maker. To him, the difference mattered. A cartographer dealt in the mysteries of shape, space, and certainty, none of which the sea promised. Tomás had studied under monks at Coimbra, learned Latin from Jesuits, and geometry from a ship captain who had sailed to India and back 3 times. But the sea, he believed, was the real teacher. It changed with mood and season, defied measurement, and punished arrogance. His maps, he often said, were part science, part prayer. On this particular morning, Tomás stood by the high window of his workshop, sipping watered wine from a clay cup, gazing out over the river. A new ship had just docked, its hull stained from months abroad. He watched as dock hands unloaded crates, jars, and sacks. But what interested him more was the tall figure that stepped off the gangplank, clutching a wrapped bundle of scrolls. Within the hour, the man was at his door. A sailor from the Azores, weather-worn and smelling faintly of clove and brine, he unwrapped a bundle on Tomás's table. Inside were rough sketches, notes scribbled in a dozen languages, and a palm-sized stone etched with strange markings. "From the coast of Angola," the sailor said in a hoarse voice. "No one's mapped it true yet." Tomás leaned in, brushing his fingers lightly over the stone. The markings weren't familiar, but the shape of the coastline beneath them was. This, he realized, could fill a gap in his grand map, a map he had been working on for 11 years, and which he might never finish. He worked in silence for the rest of the day, lit only by the wide window and later an oil lamp. His tools, brass compasses, measuring rods, sharpened quills, moved like extensions of his hands. He muttered as he worked, not from madness, but from memory. Latitude 14 degrees. By nightfall, the map had grown. A new stretch of coast curled outward from the parchment, fragile and uncertain. He added no names yet, only contour and shape. Names would come later, from kings or priests or explorers who never held a quill. Tomás leaned back, exhausted. He rubbed his eyes and looked again at the map. Every line he drew was an act of imagination as much as precision. Every line said, "Here's what we know. Beyond this, the unknown." In the quiet that followed, Tomás walked to his shelf and unrolled another map, an older one, brittle and browned. He compared them side by side, his fingers trailing over seas and peninsulas. What was once only myth was now defined, and what was once certainty was now questioned. He thought of his grandfather, a fisherman who could not read, who thought the world ended where the sun dipped below the water. He thought of sailors who followed his maps, placing their trust in lines and ink. He smiled softly. Then gently he closed the scroll and returned to his desk. A candle flickered as he dipped his pen in ink, and in careful Latin script added one final note to the new section. Drawn by Tomás of Lisbon in the year of our Lord 1575, confirmed by wind and wave as best man may. The candle burned low. Outside, the harbor settled into stillness, and in the little house above the Alfama, the mapmaker of Lisbon dreamed, not of places he had seen, but of those he had yet to draw.